Listen, the more you learn, the more you earn. Welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Sabali Freeman, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my journey back to college. Um, I did in a previous video state that I am a sophomore at the University of New Mexico, majoring in biochemistry, and my ultimate goal in my academic journey is to go to medical school and become a doctor. So I want to talk to you guys about how I got to this point. And to do that, we're going to take it back to my high school days. And high school was one of those things that I did not take serious at all. My grades were horrible. I was a D average student. I had very low GPAs. My standardized test scores were extremely low. Um, and to be honest, I had no business walking across the stage. When I got my transcripts and saw my high school academic performance, I was shocked. I was like, "There's no way that I that I graduated." And honestly, if I could go back in time, I probably would have failed myself because I had no business walking across the stage. But nevertheless, I did end up graduating. And the reason why I would say I didn't take high school serious is looking back on it now. I just don't think I was thinking about my future. I wasn't thinking about what life is going to look like at 40, 50, 60 years old. What does retirement look like? And I think a lot of people struggle with that because when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're not thinking about life at 50. You're not thinking about retirement. You're so young, and you're just taking it day by day. So you're just not thinking about your future. You're not really thinking about a career. You're not really taking life too serious for most kids. Some kids, depending on how they were raised, they are taking life serious. They're about the books. They're trying to go to college. They're trying to get that career. But some people, depending on how you were raised, you're just not taking life serious. I definitely wasn't taking life serious at all. So I just didn't take high school serious. And fast forward, I ended up graduating, and I had did one semester at Oakland Community College in Michigan. I was raised in Southfield, Michigan, for the majority of my life, and going to Oakland Community College definitely was not an idea of mine. It wasn't something that I was looking to do after high school. The reason why I ended up going is really just because, my mom was kind of just, on my head, beat me on the head, telling me you need to go to college, you need to go. And she just wouldn't get off my back about it. So I ended up going. And, I think a lot of people are in college for that same reason. They're in college because the parents is making them go. The mom and dad, won't get off their back about it. I actually know people personally who say, hey, I'm here for my parents. I'm doing this for my parents. And I think that's a really bad mindset. When it comes to life, if you do anything in life, you got to do it for yourself. You got to do it because you want to do it. You can't do anything for anybody because the effort and energy is just not going to be there. When you're doing it for yourself, you're going to give it the maximum amount of energy. And that's what ended up happening to me with college. The energy and effort was not there. I did not put in uh, the maximum amount of energy that I could. I didn't put my best foot forward. I kind of came in with the high school mentality. Let me just do the bare minimum and try to get through the semester. And you really can't do that in college, even if you're going to a community college. You really can't do that. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned when I was at that community college is, okay, this is not high school. The course load is a lot more rigorous. The professors aren't as lenient as your high school teachers. They're not just going to pass you. I had one English teacher specifically. She just was not just going to pass me. She was definitely on my head. And I barely passed that class. I got a D minus. I wouldn't even consider that passing, honestly. But depending on what curriculum you're in, D minus can be passing. Sometimes, depending on the curriculum, you can't get less than a C. So barely made it out of that class. But yeah, I didn't put my best foot forward in college. I realized that it wasn't high school. I realized that I was really going to have to, try really hard in college. I wasn't going to be able to do the bare minimum. And once I realized that, I ended up dropping out because I just didn't have the mindset. I didn't have the mindset, the work ethic that it takes to kind of get through college. So I ended up dropping out. And I just went through life and just, worked minimum wage jobs, and just kind of told myself, hey, I'll figure something out eventually. Um, and that's it. And fast forward, I ended up moving to New Mexico, I think when I was about 23 years old. Um, and I was kind of living off grid with my mom and dad. My mom and dad are educated; they both have master's degrees. My mom has a MBA. My dad has a master's in taxation. And just being around them for 4 years really helped me to gain insight on the importance of education because they're educated, and I've seen what education has done for them and the way they communicate, just everything in their daily lives, their organization. I've seen what it can really do for them, and especially on the economic standpoint as well, financially. They're pretty much set because they went to college. And I would say when I turned 25, halfway through that year, that's when I kind of really started to ponder and question myself, like, okay, what am I doing here? I was working at a gas station. I think I was going on my fourth year being at this gas station. And, life just, wasn't really going anywhere for me. Here I am, 25, haven't accomplished anything, haven't accomplished nothing. And I'm not even on the road to accomplishing anything. I have no goals. I'm just out here just taking it day by day, working a minimum wage job, waiting for something to fall out of the sky. And life really doesn't work like that. You have to get up, and you have to put the energy and effort into doing something so that way you can create the life that you want for yourself. And so I really started pondering on that, and that's when I decided, okay, I got to do something with my life. I can't just be out here working minimum wage jobs for the rest of my life. I've always wanted better for myself, but my biggest downfall was I didn't want to put the effort in. We live in a instant gratification society where we just want to think we can manifest things and manifest money, and it really just doesn't work like that, or at least not the way that they explain it. So I ended up going back to college. I just said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm gonna enroll back to school and try to get a career going for myself. And in life, when you're trying to establish yourself, the three things that you can do is either start a business, go get a trade, or go educate yourself. Go back to school and get an education. And out of those three things, I just felt like the education just was it's kind of a no brainer. Just being around my parents, I've seen what education did for them. So, just seeing that, I just said, this is the best thing for me. As far as the trade, I've kind of done a little bit of everything in construction, and I realized, I just didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And then, as far as starting a business, I mean, starting a business isn't as simple as people try to make it. They always say start a business, start a business, start a business doing what? You know what I'm saying? It's not that simplistic. So I just decided to go back to school. So I started off at New Mexico Highlands University. It's a really, really small university. And I think that was perfect for me to start off with because I had went 7 years with no schooling. So you can only imagine how difficult it was for me to kind of relearn all the basic knowledge, the basic math. I didn't know how to write an essay. I didn't know the rules of writing. So that was probably the hardest thing about going back to school after not being in school for so long, was having to kind of relearn all that basic stuff. But that school was perfect for me because, it wasn't a major university. The classes were, still challenging. The professors, weren't just passing kids or anything like that. You still had to put your best foot forward. Um, and that's exactly what I did. So, but it was a perfect school for me to go do that and pretty much just play catch up. And I'm glad that I did that because had I started at a major university, I probably wouldn't have done that well. So I did 30 credit hours there. I maintained a 4.0 GPA, which is really important. I'm glad that I strive to do that. So after that 30 credit hours, I ended up transferring to the University of New Mexico, which I'm currently at now. And let's see. Yeah, I'm a sophomore now, and I've done a fall and spring semester, and I do plan on taking a summer class here in a little bit. It starts June 2nd. I'm taking general chemistry 2 for the summer. And yeah, that's how I ended up. That's how I ended up where I'm at now. So that was my journey from high school all the way to where I'm at now. So it's been a journey. Going back to college is definitely one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. I love school, love learning, and I'm just happy that I did it. I hear a lot of people say that they want to go back to school, they're planning on going back to school, but they just never get started. And that's the hardest part with anything is just getting started. When I started the process of going back to college, it was definitely a process. I had to get my student loans out of deferment. That was a process. I had to go get my high school transcript. I had to go find my transcript from Oakland Community College. I had to fill out an application for Highlands. It was definitely a process, but I didn't really think too much about it. I just put my head down and wrote out all the steps I needed to do to make it happen. And one by one, I just did it one by one. Step one, done. Step two, done. Step three, done. And that's what you have to do. If you're planning on going back to school, don't make it difficult. You just got to get started. Write out the steps and one by one, just mark off the steps. Okay, step one, I need to get my transcripts or I need to get a GED, and just get it done. Just get it done. Don't think hard about it. It's not that complicated. Just get it done. So that's it. That's my journey from high school all the way to college now. I will make a separate video about why I decided to go to medical school to become a doctor, but I'll save that for a later video. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me, and I'll see you on the next video.